We are on the record in the 13th Judicial District, the District Court of Greenwood, County, Kansas. This is in case number 2023 CR 300021, State of Kansas versus Alicia Wynn Bone. County Attorney Jill Gillette appearing for the state. Attorney Chris Ambrose appearing for the defendant, who also appears in person at the Greenwood County Courthouse. Are there any bondsmen here, as this matter does come on for bond forfeiture hearing? All right, and state your name for the record, please.
With a sure bell, Your Honor.
Why don't you come on up, sir? I'm not going to be able to hear you back there.
Tom Taylor with a sure bell, Your Honor.
I still didn't hear you. You'll need to get right in front of that microphone. What's your name?
Thomas Taylor with a sure bell.
Thank you, Mr. Taylor. All right, this matter, as I said, does come on for hearing on the state's motion for forfeiture of the bond due to the defendant's failure to appear. She's failed to appear a couple of times, March 29th, 2024, and August 2nd, 2024. It looks like Mr. Thomas, you do have her here today. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, Ms. Gillette, how does the state wish to proceed on its motion to forfeit?
Jill, you're muted.
Since the bondsman's brought her in and turned her in, we'll withdraw the motion for forfeiture, but we'd like her taken into custody. The bond is currently set at $30,000 cash or professional surety.
Mr. Ambrose, anything you want to be heard on?
Well, Your Honor, I have not heard from Miss Bone. However, as a matter of course, we would object to her being placed into custody. I believe that based on what I'm seeing here, it looks like we need to get a preliminary hearing set on this regardless. Miss Bone might be able to provide us some insight as to where she's been and what her plans are to make sure she's going to get back to court in case the court was to provide her an alternative.
Ms. Bone, why haven't you been in front of this court since March? Now you're going to have to sit up in front of the microphone.
I had not had transportation, and the first court date that I missed was actually because I was sick. I was in the hospital, and the second time was due to the transportation, and I have not had transportation for over a month, and I do not have an active phone. It's been almost a month that I have not had an active phone. I'm in the process of getting an active phone.
So you knew you had court on those 2 days, you just didn't make it in?
The second one, I didn't know what day it was, but I thought it was actually September 1st is what I thought it was. And I was going to find transportation to get there. I had asked my mom, but I was not able to. I was unaware of the day. I had put it down wrong.
Where do you live?
Your Honor.
Just a moment. Where do you live? No, ma'am, answer my question. Where do you live?
In Iola.
I'm sorry?
Iola, Kansas.
You live in Iola with your mom?
No.
On
I
your
live,
own?
yes.
How far do you live from your mom?
She lives in Chanute.
So you were able to call your mom and talk about your case, but you weren't able to call the court or your attorney.
I had used someone else's phone.
But you couldn't use someone else's phone to call the court or your attorney.
They would not let me. They ended up leaving.
Oh, they'd let you call mom, but not the court or your attorney. What's
Yeah.
this person's name?
They were a person I ran into at the gas station. I had met them like once. All I know is her first name, but she didn't. Apparently, she wasn't staying in that town, but she.
So somebody rolled into town to the gas station, you saw them, and you asked to use their phone.
Yeah, and I was like, I need to call my mom for a ride for court, and I need to call my attorney. And she was like, okay. And she let me call my mom first because I told her that would be the first call to do. And then she got mad at me when I was almost off the phone with my mom and tried to take the phone. And she hung up the phone on my mom and then took it and walked off. And
And
left.
you couldn't ask your mom to call your lawyer or the court?
I was in the process of asking her. I had started to ask her. I was like, hey, can you call my attorney? And I did not get to tell her the name before she literally jerked the phone. My mom does not know my attorney's name.
And your mom doesn't know how to call the court?
She
Okay.
didn't know which county it was either. She was confused on the county.
And you had no way of calling your bondsman?
No, I had not.
And there was not a soul in Iola that would let you use their phone? Besides this woman that had come into town unknown to you?
Yeah. I had asked a couple friends the day after, but none of them had active phones.
All right.
I don't have a lot of friends.
Stop. Thank you. All right. Now if I can get the bondsman to come back up and tell me what he was wanting to say.
Once I made contact with her that the forfeiture hearing was in place, and I know I've spoken this to you before, that I tell them we can do this the easy way or the hard way. And if they stay in contact with me and till the time comes, then we will get her over here. And I didn't have to put her in handcuffs or any of that stuff. She voluntarily came today. I just wanted to make sure you knew that part of it. It wasn't a hunting her down and bringing her in, Your Honor.
She voluntarily came today, but she didn't come the last 2 times.
Right. Well, like I said, I was just adding my point that she did voluntarily come with me and she did stay in contact with me once I let her know there was a forfeiture and that we needed to bring her over for that court date. And so she did.
And when was that?
I couldn't tell you the exact date. It's been 30 days probably that when I got it. And like I said, I contacted her and let her know what the date was. And you know, like I said, I usually tell them if I can make contact with them and they're receptive to that and we can get them in here and they'll walk in with them, then I'm okay with that versus having to put them in handcuffs and take them to jail. And they stayed in contact with me and actually reminded me last night of the court date today. So they were helpful that way. She was helpful that way.
She told you last night what her court date was?
Right. She reminded me. Yes. Yes, Your Honor.
Well, Mr. Taylor, what troubles me, besides the obvious defendant not appearing, is that the post office says they delivered notice to you of this hearing in Chanute, Kansas, August 19th, 2024 at 10:26 a.m. And you're just now getting her to me, and yet you said she's been in contact with you.
Yes, Your Honor.
So you don't surrender them until I don't understand why you didn't turn her in before now.
When you give us the court date that I have to present them on that day, if I can make contact with them and they're working jobs and they're trying to continue their life and do it right, and they'll follow that, I get them in here for that new court date.
Well, I see that as potentially aiding a felon, or when you know that they've got an active warrant and you don't turn them in. I have a real problem with that. And you've known since August 19th she had an active warrant, and you chose to wait until today to turn her in. So that's very troubling to me. So, Ms. Gillette, again, at this time, you're wanting to set aside the motion to forfeit the bond?
Yes, usually when they do bring them in by the court date, I agree that she should have been brought in earlier. Waiting till the last minute's not appropriate when they have an outstanding bond and warrant on them. This is her second warrant for failure to appear. It's not that hard to dial in from Zoom. If you can't Zoom from here, the bondsmen will make sure to help you. Her prior bondsman was Don Kirkman. You get a hold of your bondsman and say, hey, I don't have a way to court, or I don't have a way to Zoom. They'll get you zoomed in. She didn't do that. In fact, she didn't contact her attorney. She hasn't been in contact with anyone. And we haven't had a current phone number or address up here at the court for her. It's important that you contact the court when we give you a hearing date and you're here and you get that hearing time. It is not hard to Zoom. Yesterday, Judge Ricky made the comment. I thank you, sir, for zooming in from Arizona when we have people that are 2 blocks from the courthouse that can't Zoom. These are Zoom hearings where she could have been on television and not had to be brought to the courthouse. At this point, I am asking her to be taken into custody on her 30,000 cash or professional surety bond. She needs to make a bond. She needs to understand her bondsman should be her best friend and they are responsible for getting her to court.
Well,
She
it sounds like he has been. He's kept her out and kept her doing whatever it is she wanted to do for the last 2 months.
Yeah, well, he didn't on August 2nd, and her hearing wasn't in September, it was in August. And so I would ask for the bench warrant to be served, her to be taken into custody, and her to need to post a new bond.
Mr. Thomas, Thomas
Taylor.
Taylor.
Yes,
Taylor.
yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Taylor, at this time, I am not going to make you pay the 15,000 because she is here today. But a word of caution, I am not in the practice of letting people tell other people, hey, you've got a warrant, but don't turn yourself in right now. You can hold this off for 2 months. That's not the way it works. You don't tell a person they have a warrant to help them stay out of jail. That's illegal. You tell people they have a
warrant and they can turn themselves in, and then I have a forfeiture date on this, and that way, Your Honor.
Sir, it is not an option when they have a warrant for them to decide when they're going to turn themselves in. It's not your position to decide how long you're going to give them before they come to court. You know, we trust bondsmen, and if we can't trust the bondsmen to do what they say they're going to do, then we can't have them as bondsmen. All right, this time, I am not going to forfeit the 15,000 to make you put it up, but I am ordering that she be taken into custody. So there better be a deputy there that takes her into custody, and her new bond is set at 30,000 as previously ordered. She started out at a lower bond. She did this with Kirkman, but they, I think, got her in here a little quicker. And now she's done it with you. What's she been doing for the last 2 months, Mr. Thomas? Mr. Taylor, I'm sorry.
Taking
Know
care
what
of
she's been up to, what she been doing.
Well, she's been in the Iola house up there with her kids, working, I believe.
You believe?
Well, I mean, she's been making contact. I wasn't asking her everything that she did. I was making sure that she's taking in contact with me at the house.
But do you see, you're not the one she's supposed to just make
I understand.
contact with.
I understand, Your Honor.
All right. So you may go, and she needs to come back up here. You may go.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Taylor. Miss Bone, I'm ordering that you be taken into custody for your multiple failures to appear. I will let your new bond of 30,000 stand, although I'm tempted to say no bond, just hold you until we resolve this, because maybe your bondsman and you've got a relationship where he can trust that you're where you're supposed to be, but you and I don't have that relationship. So is there a deputy there to come and get her? And Miss Gillette, shall we set a new hearing? And like her attorney said, I think she skipped out last on her preliminary hearing. Do we want an evidentiary hearing, Mr. Ambrose?
I think that's probably what we need to be set, especially considering she's going to be in custody. I think
All
that's
right.
Probably the appropriate thing
Well,
to do.
she might make her 30,000. Mr. Taylor may want to post it again. All right, Missy.
I have October 15th available at 9 or 10.
Any preference, Mr. Ambrose?
I can make 10 work. Well, sorry, can I have 1 second to check my hearing? This week's calendar hasn't been updated. We haven't updated from this week's hearings. So let me make sure I didn't schedule anything there if I could have just a second, Your
Okay,
Honor.
Ms. Bone, who are you talking to there? I'm sorry? I can't hear you.
Linda Thomas.
Well, I'm not sure I'm going to trust Mr. Thomas Taylor I'm not sure I'm going to trust him to make your bond again. Because he let you out for 60 days. He didn't get you here to court on time. He didn't get you here to court when he said he would. And he let you go for 60 days. So I think if you want to post a $30,000 bond, you better get a different bondsman.
And Your Honor, October 15th at 10 a.m. would be preferred if that's acceptable.
That's acceptable for me. How about you, Ms. Gillette?
That's fine with the state.
All right. That'll be the order of the court. Maybe we need to review our list of bondsmen. Maybe they need to understand what their roles are as bondsmen. But this is totally unacceptable. With that said, we are in recess. Deputies, make sure you take this young lady into custody.